With ABC News Political Director Rick Klein. Rick, welcome. The South Carolina primary is Saturday. Do you see any surprises, especially with a possible second or third place finisher?
Yeah, I think the big question is who wins the primary, of course. And if Bernie Sanders wins, it could be a short primary season. If he doesn't win, most people presume that he'd come in second. Joe Biden would look like the front runner to come in first. And really, it's a make or break moment for Biden, also for Tom Steyer, who has invested heavily in South Carolina. And of course, it just sets the stage for Super Tuesday in California and beyond, where only 3 days separate this last early contest with the enormous number of states and number of delegates at stake on Super Tuesday.
Yeah, you mentioned Super Tuesday. Obviously, Bernie Sanders is leading here. Mike Bloomberg is pumping tons of money into California. How important is California on Super Tuesday to all?
Well, look, it's the biggest state by population, the biggest delegate haul by far on the map. It dominates the storyline, not just Super Tuesday, maybe for the balance of the campaign. And I think the margins here become very important because if Bernie Sanders wins and wins big everywhere, he could just simply clean up and start to build a delegate lead that's almost impossible for anyone to catch up with. That is the reality of what California represents in this race. And I think there's a possibility that a surprise in South Carolina changes the numbers a bit in California. But as you know, so many people are voting by mail. So much of the voting has already taken place that it may be hard to change any outcomes that are already baked in.
So the day after Super Tuesday, maybe we can call it Reckoning Wednesday. For the candidates that don't do particularly well, how do they continue to raise money?
Well, I looked first at the candidates that have home states voting on Super Tuesday. That includes Elizabeth Warren in Massachusetts, Amy Klobuchar in Minnesota, even Tom Steyer in California. If you can't win or do very well in your home state, we think Bernie Sanders is going to win Vermont on Tuesday. What's the rationale? Where do you start to break through? And I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on some of the moderate candidates to get out of the way of an anti-Bernie Sanders candidate, if indeed this breaks down like we think it will. It may be too late for that, functionally. I think it's also a big test for Mike Bloomberg, because we've seen him over the debates the last couple of weeks. Short of that, he hasn't had much exposure on the political scene on the national level. This is the first time he's really facing voters. He decided to skip the first 4 contests. That skipping stops on Tuesday. And does he start to put significant points on the board in a very big day of voting?
Last quick question, coronavirus, what is that doing to the campaign?
Well, it's certainly sent a chill across the race. I mean, it's changed the stakes in a lot of ways. You start to hear some candidates like Bloomberg, like Biden, talk about their leadership experience. A lot of them are blaming the president for not having a firmer hand on this, or maybe letting things get a little bit out of control. I think it's a reminder of the serious challenges that a president faces. Candidates like to talk about a whole lot of things, but a lot of the presidency is dealing with things that you can't ever know are going to happen until they're in front of you.
Yeah. ABC News Political Director Rick Klein. Rick, thank you as always.